Hello, everyone. Tonight we are wandering into a world so ancient, so sun-scorched, that even the air seems to hum with the memory of creatures who thrived in silence and heat. Picture this: you shuffle along a cracked riverbank, the ground beneath your feet brittle like old pottery. The sun hangs above you, heavy and unrelenting, casting light so sharp it almost carves shadows into the earth. There just ahead, you spot it, a creature that looks carved out of stone. An ancient crocodile. Its body lies motionless, armored in rough, dark scales that blend seamlessly with the mud and sand. And yet what truly grabs your attention, what sends a ripple of unease through you, is the creature's mouth open wide as if mid-roar. But no sound comes, just the gaping, toothy cavern waiting, watching. You pause. The sensible part of your brain screams, "Turn back," but your curiosity drags you forward. The crocodile doesn't move. Not a twitch, not a blink. Just that maw stretched open beneath the blazing sun. You think for a moment that it's some kind of trap, that at any second the beast will snap its jaws shut like a sprung bear trap. But no, this is no ambush. This crocodile is engaged in one of the oldest, strangest survival tricks of the ages, sleeping with its mouth open wide as if offering its teeth to the sun itself. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with your location and what time it is where you are. I always love seeing how far this little campfire of ours reaches. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You crouch lower, heart-thudding, feeling the heat radiate off the ground. It's so intense you could probably cook an egg on a flat stone if you weren't so preoccupied with the rows of serrated teeth glinting before you. The crocodile's tongue rests like a pale pink platform inside that cavernous mouth, motionless. Its nostrils set high on its snout barely flare with each slow, measured breath. And you begin to wonder, why would any creature sleep like this vulnerable, advertising its dangerous grin to the world? Here's the thing. The crocodile isn't trying to scare you. Well, maybe a little, but mostly it's beating the heat. Crocodiles, both ancient and modern, have a curious method of thermoregulation. When the sun's fury becomes too much, they open their mouths wide. Gaping is the technical term to help release heat. Think of it as the reptilian equivalent of sweating, except a whole lot toothier. This behavior isn't just about comfort. It's a vital adaptation in regions where shade is scarce and water sometimes boils under the midday sun. You shift your gaze from the mouth to the eyes, small and dark beneath a bony ridge. The eyes are closed, or perhaps just slitted enough to monitor you without betraying their vigilance. And you realize with a little shiver, despite the heat, that this creature isn't truly asleep. Not the way you know sleep. Crocodiles rest in a state of near sleep, half aware, half dreaming, able to snap awake in an instant if danger or dinner approaches. Historians still debate whether this open-mouthed resting habit evolved before crocodiles became masters of rivers and swamps, or whether it came after as they adapted to ever-hotter environments over millennia. What's certain is that crocodiles have been doing this for an unfathomably long time, some say longer than the very rivers they lounge beside. A breeze stirs the reeds, and with it comes the tang of algae mud and something faintly metallic. You wrinkle your nose and glance back at the crocodile. Still unmoving. But that smell... It reminds you of another odd fact: ancient crocodiles weren't just the slow-moving lurkers we know today. Some species were built for speed with longer legs and slimmer bodies, able to gallop after prey on land. Imagine that for a second, a crocodile sprinting like a greyhound. Sleep tight tonight. You straighten up, feeling the sun bite at your neck, and step back, careful not to disturb this living relic. The river, sluggish and low, gleams dully in the distance. Somewhere a bird cries out a single sharp note like a warning. And you can't help but wonder how many other creatures once shared this space with the crocodile. What stories the mud might whisper if only it could speak. In the distance, the sky wavers with heat. And you think about that open mouth again. Maybe it's not just about cooling down. Maybe it's also about reminding everything that walks or crawls nearby. I'm still here. I've seen ages pass, and I'll see yours end too. Or, maybe it's just hot and the poor thing's trying not to roast its brain. Either way, you take one last look at those ancient jaws and continue on the crunch of your footsteps, swallowed by the heavy, listening silence of this sun-baked world. You move on, though the weight of that toothy grin still lingers in your mind. The land shifts beneath your feet, drier now, the mud giving way to cracked earth. But the sun stays the same. It bears down with that merciless prehistoric glare, the same heat that once blazed on creatures long forgotten. And as you shuffle along, sweat prickling at the back of your neck, you can't help but circle back to the image of that crocodile, its mouth yawning open like a cave of bone and shadow. What's with the mouth, really? It's not like it's catching flies. Although given the size of those jaws, you figure it could probably net a small bird without trying. Let's break it down. That open mouth isn't just an idle threat. It's a cooling system, a biological air conditioner, if you will. Crocodiles, being cold-blooded, don't sweat. Not even a little bit. Instead, they rely on the environment and a few clever tricks to manage their body temperature. And that gaping maw. That's trick number one. By opening wide, they expose moist tissues inside the mouth to the air. This lets heat escape through evaporation, much like when we pant after a jog or after climbing out of a car with broken AC in July. You watch a dragonfly zip past its wings, catching the light like shards of glass. It lands foolishly on the snout of another crocodile, half buried in the shallows. That crocodile, too, keeps its mouth open, breathing in slow, measured puffs. It doesn't flinch at the dragonfly's ticklish feet. See, this open mouth posture isn't about aggression. Oh, sure, it looks fierce, like a warning sign with teeth. But in reality, it's as much about survival as it is about scaring off potential troublemakers. And besides, crocodiles don't like to waste energy lunging at every critter that comes near. That's a young reptile's game. Historians still debate whether this heat control strategy came before crocodiles conquered the rivers and swamps or after they became kings of those murky realms. There's evidence, some say, that ancient croc ancestors, creatures that roamed long before the Nile and the Amazon were even dreams in the Earth's crust, might have used this trick when the world was hotter, steamier, and more hostile than today. Others argue it was a later innovation perfected as crocs settled into their semi-aquatic niche. Either way, it's a habit that stood the test of time. You crouch beside the river, your own mouth dry as sand. The crocodile near you lets out a long, slow exhale. The air smells of damp mud fish and that unique tang of water left too long in the sun. There's something strangely peaceful about it, this beast that looks like it could tear through you in a blink, content to simply sit and breathe. It makes you feel, well, kind of small. Like a passing thought in the mind of a creature that's seen continents split and rejoin. Speaking of odd facts, did you know that some species of modern crocodiles can climb trees? No joke. There are reports of crocs scaling branches, sunbathing above the water like some scaly jungle cat. Imagine walking through a swamp looking down for danger and getting ambushed from above instead. Crocodiles, the gift that keeps on terrifying. A breeze ripples across the river, bringing a moment's relief from the oppressive heat. The crocodile's mouth opens just a fraction wider, as if savoring the cooler air. And you can't help but think about how brilliantly adapted this creature is. No fancy technology, no tools, just millions of years of perfecting the art of being, still being patient and using what the world offers. The sound of your footsteps on cracked earth draws the attention of a heron farther down the bank. It rises in a flurry of white feathers, crying out once a thin, reedy sound, and glides away. You watch it go, then glance back at the crocodile. Still there, still open-mouthed, still watching maybe. Or maybe just existing in that quiet, ancient way that creatures like this do. You consider for a moment what it must be like to live in a world where every choice is life or death. Open your mouth or overheat. Close your mouth or risk exhaustion. Wait too long to act, and some faster, hungrier predator might seize the chance. The crocodile's way isn't flashy. It's slow, methodical, but it works. It's worked since before humans walked upright. Somewhere beyond the river, a low rumble echoes across the plain. Maybe thunder. Maybe just the ground settling as if the earth itself sighs beneath the weight of all these ancient lives. You wipe your brow and step away from the water's edge, giving the crocodile a respectful distance. Its mouth stays open, a dark and silent monument to survival. And as you move along the bank, the heat pressing down like a hand on your back, you think about how sometimes the simplest strategies are the ones that endure. Open mouth, watchful, slow breath, stay cool, stay alive. It's not glamorous, but it's kept crocodiles going for over 200 million years. Not bad for a creature with no air conditioning, no sunscreen, and absolutely no patience for nonsense. The river fades behind you, its slow shimmering coils vanishing into the distance as the ground beneath your feet hardens into packed sand. The air hums with heat, thick and oppressive, as if the very atmosphere is trying to weigh you down. You wipe at your brow again, squinting ahead where the land stretches out into the baked emptiness of the desert's edge. And then you see it. A flash of movement so small, so quick you almost miss it. There perched atop a sun-warmed rock is a tiny desert lizard. Its scales shimmer like burnished copper, blending seamlessly into the sand and stone. You stop holding your breath watching this little creature as it stands perfectly still. Its head tilts just slightly, as if listening to some sound only it can hear. The heat haze makes the whole scene ripple like a mirage, but the lizard remains sharp, real, and oddly purposeful. You can't help but smile. The crocodile might be a master of water and shadow, but out here, this lizard is the one calling the shots. It stays frozen for several heartbeats. You half expect it to dart away, but no! The lizard lowers its body even closer to the rock. Its legs splayed wide and it remains motionless. You crouch down curious. What's it waiting for? There's no obvious predator in sight. No insect to snatch up. No rival to confront. And yet the lizard seems to be listening, no? Feeling for something. A warning from the air, the ground, the sun itself. Here's a curious thing. Some desert lizards are so attuned to their environment that they can pick up on the subtlest changes long before other animals or humans have a clue what's coming. Historians still debate whether ancient peoples learned to watch these lizards to predict sandstorms or if that's just a romantic notion layered onto folklore. But one thing's for sure, these little reptiles have been reading the desert signs for millions of years. The lizard's sides expand and contract with slow, measured breaths. Its eyes, dark as obsidian beads, never stop scanning the horizon. You follow its gaze, but there's nothing, just endless dunes, pale and shifting under the sun's cruel gaze. The only sound is the faint hiss of wind stirring the sand, barely enough to ruffle your hair. But the lizard, it knows. You can feel it in the tension of its tiny body. It's waiting for a cue for the first breath of danger on the wind. And here's where it gets interesting. Desert lizards don't have fancy tools, no weather apps, no little barometers tucked behind their ears. What they have is skin. Hypersensitive skin that can detect minute changes in air pressure and humidity. When a sandstorm brews beyond the horizon, even before the sky darkens and the winds howl, the desert's pressure shifts. And the lizards, they feel it like a whisper across their scales. A beetle scuttles past and for a moment you think the lizard might snap it up. But no, the lizard stays still. Its priorities lie elsewhere right now. Which reminds you of a fun oddity: some desert lizards, like the Australian thorny devil, can actually channel dew and moisture along grooves in their skin straight to their mouths, like having built-in straws carved into their scales. How's that for a neat party trick? The breeze picks up just a touch, carrying with it the scent of dry earth and something sharper, ozone maybe, or the ghost of rain long gone. The lizard's tail twitches once. Its tiny claws grip the rock as if bracing for something. And for a moment you feel the land itself holding its breath alongside this miniature sentinel. You glance skyward, but the blue above is pure and pitiless. No clouds, no shade, just the brutal burning day. Yet the lizard stays alert, body low, as if pressing itself into the earth might shield it from what's to come. And you realize standing there that you're getting a rare glimpse into a dance older than cities, older than history itself. The lizard isn't just surviving, it's reading the script of the desert, a script written in the language of heat, wind, and sand. There's a quiet kind of wisdom in that, don't you think? No panic, no wasted motion, just watch, wait, listen. Trust in instincts honed over countless generations. You take a step back, careful not to disturb the lizard's vigil. The ground crunches softly under your boots, and the lizard's eyes flick toward you just for an instant before returning to its unseen task. Somewhere beyond the dunes, you imagine the first threads of a sandstorm beginning to weave themselves together, invisible to you, but as clear as a shout to the lizard. The world might look empty, but the desert is always whispering secrets. You just have to know how to listen. Or be a lizard. You give the little creature a nod of respect because, frankly, if anyone's making it out here, it's not you. It's that copper-scaled master of desert survival, reading the signs, staying cool, and knowing when to act. As you turn away, the lizard remains where it is, a tiny, unmoving guardian of the sands, waiting for the first true breath of the coming storm. The desert stretches out before you like a vast, shimmering sea of gold. And for a while you walk without thinking, letting the rhythm of your footsteps match the soft hiss of the breeze stirring the sand. But that lizard, you can't shake the image of it. That frozen pose, the way it seemed to hear something you couldn't, the way its body tensed as if bracing for an invisible wave. And now as you glance at the horizon, you start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, it wasn't imagining things. The air changes subtly. There's a dry sharpness to it now, like the scent of old paper left too long in the sun. You pause, feeling the wind tug at your shirt, lifting little streams of sand that dance around your boots. And in that moment, you start to notice patterns not just in the sand, but in the way the dunes seem to shift and lean like ripples ahead of some approaching force. Could it be? Could the lizard's stillness have been a sign? You remember reading once that desert lizards, with their sensitive skin and low-slung posture, can pick up on vibrations and shifts in air pressure that hint at a sandstorm's approach. Some scientists argue it's no more than coincidence that lizards freeze at the slightest changestorm or no storm. But others believe these tiny reptiles have a kind of built-in barometer, able to sense subtle cues that we, with all our technology, often miss. Historians still debate whether ancient desert peoples truly watch these creatures as storm predictors, or whether that's just a tale woven by storytellers over the centuries. But standing here, feeling the air grow heavier, you can see how such a legend might be born. Your eyes follow the contours of the dunes, and now you see it. The faintest smudge on the horizon, darker than the sky, rising like smoke from a hidden fire. The wind picks up again, carrying more grit this time, the grains stinging your skin like tiny needles. You squint against it, pulling up your collar, and think of that lizard hunkered down in its rock, perfectly still, as if it knew all along. Odd fact, some desert lizards, like the fringe-toed lizard of North Africa, have special scales on their feet that act like snowshoes, letting them sprint across loose sand without sinking. You can almost picture one of those little speedsters dashing from dune to dune, outrunning the storm itself. Okay, maybe not outrunning, but definitely giving it a good try. The smudge on the horizon grows taller, broader, more distinct. There's no mistaking it now. The sandstorm is real, and it's coming. The wind hums louder, filling your ears with a low, steady roar. You feel the first true gusts of the storm's breath, hot, dry, relentless. The kind of wind that scours paint off wood and turns smooth stones rough. And yet the desert lizard remains hidden from view, tucked away in its burrow or beneath a rock, safe from the chaos that's about to unfold. You, on the other hand, are standing out here like a lightning rod in a thunderstorm. Smart, real smart. But there's a strange peace in it too. The storm isn't angry. The desert isn't cruel. It simply is. A vast machine of wind and shimmering and sand, ancient and impersonal, doing what it's always done. You turn searching for shelter, anything to break the force of what's coming. The dunes, so beautiful a moment ago now, look like traps, their edges sharpened by the advancing storm. The sky darkens, not with clouds, but with sand, the sun fading behind a veil of swirling grit. And still, you think of that lizard, of its quiet, patient vigilance. You can't help but admire the simplicity of its solution. Sense the storm, hunker down, wait it out, no panic, no fuss, just survival, pure and simple. The first wave of sand hits a wall of biting grit that blinds and chokes. You drop to your knees, turning your back to the wind, and pull your shirt up over your mouth. The world vanishes into a blur of dust and roar. And as the storm wraps around you, you imagine that lizard deep in its burrow, snug and safe, while the desert above rages and reshapes itself in the storm's hands. And you think sometimes the smallest creatures have the smartest ideas. When at last the sandstorm's fury wanes, the desert is reborn. The dunes have shifted, sculpted into new shapes by the wind's hand, their edges crisp as if sliced by a giant blade. The air still carries the storm's tang, dry, electric sharp on your tongue. You rise slowly, brushing grit from your face, your hair, your clothes. The world is quieter now, but that quiet hums with tension, like the desert is holding its breath, waiting for the next upheaval. And out there somewhere beyond the next dune, the crocodiles sleep on beneath the furnace sky, mouths agape, locked in that delicate balance between survival and surrender. You trudge back toward the river's edge, your boots sinking slightly into the soft, freshly shifted sand. The heat is fierce now. No cloud cover, no mercy, just that endless, blinding sun bearing down as if trying to press you flat. And there, as if no storm had ever passed, lie the crocodiles. Half submerged in the sluggish water, mouths open wide, bodies still. You pause, marveling at the sight. The storm might as well have been a whisper for all they seem to care. And here's the trick: by sleeping like this with their mouths yawning wide beneath the brutal sun, the crocodiles keep from cooking alive. It's not just about cooling down through evaporation. It's about managing that razor-thin margin between overheating and dehydration. Water is life out here. The river may be slow and muddy, but it's a lifeline, and the crocodiles know it. They stay close, their gaping mouths acting as vents, their bodies sapping what coolness they can from the mud. The shade of overhanging reeds, the meager breeze off the water. Historians still debate whether this open-mouthed posture was once coupled with other strategies now lost to time. Did ancient crocodiles dig deeper burrows? Did they use vegetation or shade more cleverly than their modern descendants? There are fossils that hint at behaviors we can't quite decipher. Crocodile ancestors found near what were once forested riverbanks, suggesting perhaps a different, shadier world. But here now, the strategy is starkly simple: mouth open, stay cool, survive the day. A dragonfly skims the water's surface, its wings catching the sunlight in a brief, dazzling flash. One crocodile's eye cracks open, just a slit, just enough. But the mouth stays open, the body stays still, no wasted effort, no unnecessary motion. The crocodile is a master of energy conservation, and in this heat, every breath counts. You kneel at the water's edge, feeling the baked mud crumble under your fingers. The river smells of life and death all at once: decay, growth, the slow churn of things too small to see. And as you sit there, sharing the shade with these ancient creatures, you can't help but think of another odd fact. Some species of crocodile can actually go months without eating. Their metabolism slows their bodies drawing on stored reserves, waiting out lean times, like a living fossil pressed between the pages of an ancient book. A breeze stirs the water, and the crocodile closest to you widens its mouth just a fraction more. You can see the strands of saliva glisten between its teeth catch the pink shimmer of its tongue. It's a strange, intimate glimpse at a creature that seems both impossibly alien and deeply familiar. The open mouth isn't a threat, it's a promise. A promise that this animal will endure as it always has long after the storm, long after the sun has set, long after you're just another set of tracks in the sand. And so you sit, watching the crocodile sleep beneath the furnace sky, feeling the sun's weight on your own back, and you understand in a way the wisdom of stillness. Out here, motion is a luxury few can afford. Better to rest, better to wait. Better to let the world rage and burn while you lie low, mouth open, heat slipping away with each breath. You leave the crocodiles behind, their open jaws and armored backs blending into the muddy riverbank, as though they were just another part of the landscape. The storm may have shifted the sands elsewhere, but here near the water the world seems to have resumed its timeless rhythm. The further you walk, the drier and quieter it gets, until even the river's sluggish whisper fades behind you. The land opens up into a wide stretch of desert, and there, sketched across the sand like some ancient code, are the delicate looping trails of desert lizards. You pause, crouching, to examine these fine, almost fragile tracks. They crisscross one another in strange repeating patterns. Tight circles, sudden angles, long straight lines that seem to lead nowhere. It's like the sand itself is trying to tell a story in a language you can't quite read. And you wonder, is this just the random wandering of hungry lizards, or is there something more deliberate here? Historians still debate whether these patterns were accidental or whether desert lizards truly map the coming sandstorms with their movements. Some researchers point to the consistency of certain trail patterns found near ancient human settlements, arguing that perhaps our ancestors learned to read these tiny signs to predict danger from the winds by watching the lizards' paths. Others say it's just wishful thinking. Lizards move where the food is, where the shade is, where the sand is easiest on their feet. But standing here looking at those curious looping lines, it's easy to see how myths could grow. A light breeze skims the surface of the sand, softening the edges of the trails, blurring their meaning. You think of those lizards, small, quick, with toes adapted to skim across loose sand, as if skating on it. Odd fact, in some species like the Namib sand gecko, the feet are so specialized they leave almost no imprint at all. You'd never know they passed if not for the faintest disturbance on the surface, like ghost handwriting, here and gone in the same breath. You follow the trails for a while, letting them guide you deeper into the dunes. The sun glints off tiny fragments of quartz scattered in the sand, creating a dazzling, shifting mosaic beneath your feet. The air is thick with heat again, but the storm's memory lingers in the cooler pockets of breeze that snake between the dunes. And all the while the lizard tracks weave their strange patterns, as if sketching out invisible maps for the winds to follow. You start to notice a rhythm to it, the way the trails bunch together at the base of a dune, the way they straighten as they ascend the sudden angles where they change direction. Could it be coincidence, or are these small creatures truly navigating by instinct, reading the air and the sand in ways we've forgotten? The breeze picks up warm, but carrying a trace of that storm-born sharpness. You pause, eyes on the horizon, half expecting another smudge of sand to rise. But the sky remains clear, a vast, relentless blue. The only movement is the shimmer of heat, the slow dance of the dunes, and those intricate little trails that seem to lead you onward deeper into the desert's heart. And as you walk, you think about how survival out here is a matter of reading signs, be they in the shape of a dune, the bite of the wind, or the looping trail of a lizard. The desert speaks in riddles, in patterns written on sand. And those who listen like the lizard live to see another storm. The desert begins to soften at the edges as you near the river once more. The land, so harsh and blinding under the midday sun, offers the faintest promise of relief. The dunes smooth out, and the air carries that familiar dampness tinged with mud and algae. Your boots leave crisp prints in the sand, but it's the crocodile's prints, huge splayed claw-tipped, that catch your eye first. They lead you toward the water's edge, where the world seems to slow down, the river breathing in long, lazy sighs. And then you see it, another crocodile. This one is stretched out at the edge of the water, its massive body half in, half out, as if uncertain whether to surrender fully to the river's cool embrace. But what draws your gaze, of course, is that mouth, open wide, a black pit lined with teeth that look worn by centuries. The crocodile's nostrils sit just above the waterline, flared slightly. Its eyes, those ancient watchful eyes, are closed, or nearly so. You can't quite tell. The creature looks as if it belongs here more than the river itself. You kneel down slowly, keeping a respectful distance. The air is cooler now, the heat of the day beginning to ebb as the sun slouches toward the horizon. The crocodile's open mouth seems almost at peace, no longer straining against the furnace of the midday sun, but still gaping as if the creature has forgotten how to close it. Or maybe it's waiting for the world to cool enough to make it worthwhile. The river laps softly at its sides and the reeds sway gently, casting shifting patterns across its back. Historians still debate whether this particular behavior, this half-submerged, jaws-ajar posture, evolved as a heat control trick first, or as a hunting tactic. Did ancient crocodiles do this to ambush prey mouths, open to snap shut on anything unwary enough to wander too close? Or was it always primarily about temperature? About surviving long, punishing days under suns that never seem to set? The evidence points in both directions, and the truth, as usual, probably lies somewhere in between. The water smells strong here. Not unpleasant exactly, but rich, thick with the scent of algae, rotting plant matter, and something faintly metallic. You wrinkle your nose but stay put, watching the crocodile's slow, deliberate breaths. And it's in that stillness that you notice something, the way the setting sun catches on its teeth, making them gleam like old ivory. The way its rough, scaled skin seems to drink in the last warmth of the day, storing it for the cool night ahead. And here's an odd fact for you. While we're on the subject of crocodiles and rivers, saltwater crocodiles have been known to travel incredible distances across open ocean. Imagine that one of these toothy monsters cruising along with the currents like some scaly prehistoric mariner. The next time you're on a beach somewhere warm, spare a thought for what might be lurking just beyond the breakers. The breeze off the river grows stronger, rippling the surface, rattling the reeds. You can almost feel the temperature drop, the first whispers of night sliding in around you. And still the crocodile stays where it is, mouth open, as if reluctant to give up this simple, time-worn ritual. There's a certain serenity in it, a reminder that sometimes survival is about knowing when to move and when to be still. You rise quietly, brushing the sand from your knees. The crocodile's eyes flick open just for a second, just enough to remind you that it's aware of you, has been aware all along. And then it closes them again, content to let you go about your business while it tends to its own ancient ways. The river hums, the sun sinks lower, and the crocodile stays, as it is a silent sentinel of dusk, mouth wide, waiting for the cool night to fully claim the land. You leave the crocodile to its vigil, the soft sounds of the river fading behind you as you climb the low rise of a dune. The land stretches out again in its endless palette of gold and ochre, the shadows of the setting sun lengthening like dark fingers across the sand. And then, just there in the hollow between two dunes, you catch sight of it. A flash of movement so swift and subtle you almost doubt you saw it. But you know what it is. Another desert lizard, a little survivor of this brutal land. This one doesn't stay out in the open. No proud rock-top pose this time. Instead, it darts low, hugging the sand, its legs a blur as it races toward a nearby burrow, a narrow slit of darkness at the dune's base. And then, as quick as it appeared, it's gone, vanished underground like a magician's trick. You stand still, listening to the silence the lizard left behind, and you realize that wasn't just random behavior. That was instinct at work, a forecast in motion. The desert may seem calm now, the air cooling, the winds gentler, but that lizard felt something you didn't. Some subtle shift in the world's balance. Maybe the lingering echo of the sandstorm. Maybe a new one stirring beyond the horizon. Maybe just the restless breath of the desert itself. Whatever it was, the lizard didn't wait to see. It chose the safety of its burrow where the sand would shield it from whatever the night might bring. Historians still debate whether ancient desert cultures watched for this exact behavior. The sudden disappearance of lizards as a signal that the winds would rise. Some say yes, pointing to old stories and desert proverbs about following the lizard to safety. Others argue it's a coincidence born of survival instinct, nothing more. But when you see it yourself, the way the lizard seemed to vanish at just the right moment, you start to understand how those stories might have taken root. You approach the burrow crouching to peer inside, though of course it's far too dark to see anything. The opening is small, just wide enough for the lizard's slender body. The sand around it is disturbed, marked by the quick, purposeful scrabble of claws. You brush your fingers lightly over the edge of the entrance. The sand is still warm from the day's heat, but deeper down you can feel the coolness of the earth beneath. That's the lizard's secret, isn't it? Not just knowing when to hide, but knowing where the world stays kind when the surface turns cruel. And speaking of odd facts, did you know that some desert lizards can actually seal themselves inside their burrows during storms? They use their snouts and forelimbs to pack sand against the entrance, creating a kind of natural bunker that keeps out both predators and blowing grit. A survival strategy so simple, so clever, it makes you wonder how we ever thought ourselves superior to these tiny engineers. A gust of wind ruffles your hair, stirring the sand at your feet. The dunes shift softly, almost imperceptibly, like great sleeping beasts turning in their rest. You glance back at the burrow one last time, feeling a quiet admiration for the creature hidden within. The desert is full of dangers, full of tests, and this lizard has passed them all, at least for today. As you rise and continue your walk, the sky deepens into richer shades of orange and purple. The air cools further, and the first stars begin to wink into view. And somewhere beneath your feet, the desert lizard waits in its burrow, safe and still listening for the signs of what the night will bring. Night creeps in at last, slow and deliberate, like a predator stalking its prey. The sky fades from molten orange to a deep, endless blue. Stars scatter themselves across the heavens, each one sharp and cold against the dark. The desert transforms beneath this quiet cloak, softer somehow, though no less dangerous. You walk on your footsteps muffled by cooling sand, and your mind drifts back to the crocodiles. Those wide-open mouths, that strange, silent gape that seemed equal parts menace and mystery. You find yourself near another stretch of riverbank, the water black now under the starlight, its surface broken only by the faint ripple of current. And there they are again. Crocodiles. A whole gathering of them, this time scattered along the edge, like driftwood mouths open to the night. Their teeth catch the faint moonlight, gleaming like old ivory. You crouch low watching them. The night breeze stirs the reeds, bringing with it the smell of wet earth and decay. You've seen this posture again and again. Now the great gaping mouths, the still bodies, the slow, steady breaths. But here's the thing. No one really agrees on the when or why of this habit's origin. Historians still debate whether crocodile sleep gaping evolved during their earliest days when they first ruled the steamy swamps of prehistory, or whether it came later, refined over millennia as they became masters of heat and shadow. There are fossil records, sure, but fossils don't show behavior. They don't tell you when a creature first learned to lie still and let the air cool its blood through the soft tissues of its mouth. You watch one crocodile shift slightly, its jaws opening wider for a moment before settling again. The night air is cooler now, but not cool enough. The ground still radiates the day's heat, and the crocodiles, like the sand itself, hold on to that warmth. The open mouth helps. It always helps. It lets the heat out slowly, evenly, keeping the animal from overheating even as it rests. It's a trick as old as the rivers themselves, maybe older. And here's a weird fact to chew on while you're out here creeping around toothy monsters. Crocodiles can sleep with one hemisphere of their brain at a time. Yep, half asleep, half awake. It's called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One eye can stay open, one half of the brain alert, while the other side grabs some shut-eye. Makes you feel a bit less clever about those 8 hours you clock in bed, doesn't it? The breeze off the water grows stronger, cooling your skin, tugging at your clothes. The crocodiles stay motionless, mouths agape like statues carved by some long-forgotten sculptor. And you start to see the wisdom in it. In this harsh land, it's not just the teeth that keep them alive. It's the patience, the stillness, the ability to let the world pass by while they wait for the right moment to act or not act at all. You rise slowly, careful not to disturb the peace of the river's edge. The crocodiles pay you no mind, or if they do, they give no sign. The night deepens and the desert hums with quiet life, the rustle of small creatures in the undergrowth. The whisper of wind through reeds, the endless steady flow of the river, and the crocodiles' mouths, wide eyes, half-lidded, remain as they've always been, silent sentinels of a world older than memory. The river's hum fades behind you as you press deeper into the night. The air cools further crisp now, carrying with it the scent of damp sand and distant vegetation. The stars overhead seem brighter out here, far from the river's shadow. Their cold light glints off the dunes, painting them in silver and shadow, and you find yourself listening for the faintest hint of movement. Anything to break the hush. And then, as if on cue, you spot it. A desert lizard, barely more than a silhouette against the shifting sand, darting between the dunes. This isn't the lazy scuttle of a creature looking for a late-night snack. No, this is deliberate, precise, its body low to the ground, its limbs moving in quick bursts, its pauses timed like the ticking of an unseen clock. You crouch, watching as the lizard halts at the base of a dune head raised, tasting the air with rapid flicks of its tongue. Then it moves again, a blur of motion that ends with it flattening itself against the sand, as if becoming part of the earth itself. You can't help but admire the choreography. The lizard isn't just wandering, it's reading the land, the air, the hidden language of the desert night. And here's where it gets interesting. Some researchers believe that desert lizards move this way not just to avoid predators, but to sense and react to subtle environmental shifts. The timing of their movements, the angles they choose, the pauses between sprints. These might all be tied to changes in air pressure, humidity, even the texture of the sand beneath their feet. It's a theory, of course. Historians still debate whether these patterns have meaning beyond survival instinct. But watching this little dancer of the dunes, it's easy to see how such ideas take root. You stay low, barely daring to breathe as the lizard makes its way up the dune stops, then slides down the far side in a graceful, controlled descent. The sand hisses beneath its belly, the sound almost lost in the whisper of the wind. The stars above seem to lean in as if curious to see what this tiny survivor will do next. And speaking of odd facts, did you know that some desert lizards can regulate their body temperature by adjusting their coloration? In the cool of the night, their scales darken, absorbing what little warmth remains. During the day, they shift to paler shades, reflecting the sun's brutal glare. Living, breathing mood rings, if you like, only much smarter. The breeze grows steadier now, carrying with it that faint, familiar sharpness, the same breath of the storm you felt before. You glance at the horizon, but the night remains clear, the dunes smooth beneath the stars. And yet the lizard moves with purpose as if it knows something you don't. You can't help but feel a flicker of unease. Maybe it's nothing. Or maybe the lizard's timing isn't random at all. You rise slowly, watching as the little creature disappears into the folds of the sand, leaving behind only the faintest trail already being softened, erased by the wind. And you think, as you turn to continue your journey, that the desert's true masters are those who can listen to its quiet warnings, who can move with its rhythms rather than against them. The lizard, with its perfect timing, its instinctive reading of the land, is a reminder of that simple, enduring truth. The night deepens, the stars thickening overhead, their light cold and sharp as needles. The breeze cools the sand beneath your feet. But that heat, oh, the heat of the day, it still lingers, rising in soft waves from the earth, like a ghost reluctant to leave. You follow the winding path of the river, again drawn to the promise of water, of life, of those ancient reptiles that seem to embody the desert's quiet strength. And sure enough, you find them more than before. A cluster of crocodiles gathered at a wide bend in the river, mouths agape, as if caught mid-laugh at some ancient private joke. It's a strange, almost eerie sight, the way they lie there, side by side, mouths open, wide teeth catching the moonlight. From a distance, they look like a row of broken statues, or perhaps some forgotten temple's guardians lined up to protect the river's secrets. But as you draw closer, you see the subtle rise and fall of their flanks, the slow, deliberate breaths, the flicker of an eye here and there. They're very much alive, just resting, open-mouthed, watching and waiting in their sleep. Historians still debate whether this communal toothy posture serves a purpose beyond thermoregulation. Did ancient crocodiles gather like this for protection? For social reasons, to share the best stretches of riverbank? The evidence is scarce, the fossils silent. Some argue that even in sleep, the display of so many open jaws acts as a deterrent. No predator, no scavenger would risk a nighttime snack with all those teeth on display. Others think it's simply a case of prime real estate, a good spot to cool down, to soak up the night air, to outlast the heat until dawn. You settle at a respectful distance, watching the scene unfold, or rather, stay exactly as it is. The crocodiles don't move. The river laps gently at the shore. The night hums with the soft rustle of reeds and the occasional splash of something unseen in the water. It's peaceful, strangely so. And yet beneath that peace lies the quiet, patient menace of these creatures. One wrong move, one careless step, and those open mouths would become very active indeed. Here's a quirky fact to ponder while you admire this odd, toothy choir. Crocodiles can actually communicate with one another through low-frequency vibrations that travel through the water. Infrasound, they call it. You wouldn't hear it, but other crocs do. A silent conversation beneath the surface, part of their ancient hidden language. Maybe that's what's happening here. Maybe they're murmuring to each other in the deep, unseen currents. Or maybe they're just really, really good at group napping. The breeze stirs again, stronger now, riffling the water, carrying the scent of wet earth and riverweed. One crocodile shifts slightly, its mouth closing for a moment before yawning open again as if testing the air. The others remain as they were, their jaws wide, their breath slow and steady, their eyes half-lidded in the moonlight. You stay a little longer, listening, watching. The desert at night feels different here, calmer, safer somehow, though. You know that's an illusion. The crocodiles remind you of that with every glint of tooth, every slow breath. Masters of patience, of stillness, of survival. The storm, the heat, the shifting sands, none of it touches them. Not really. They endure. They always have. And as you rise and turn away, leaving the crocodiles to their moonlit slumber, you can't help but feel a flicker of respect. Open-mouthed sentinels of the river. Ancient kings of stillness, watching, waiting, dreaming perhaps of the world before ours even began. The hush of the night deepens as you move away from the river, the strange chorus of toothy crocodiles fading behind you like a memory. The desert opens wide once more, silent, endless, and shimmering faintly under the stars' cold gaze. You follow the faint rise of a dune, drawn by a flicker of curiosity, a need to see what lies beyond. And there at the crest you pause. The land dips into a shallow basin, and in that basin, as if placed there for you alone to find, is another lizard. This one is different. Larger than the quicksilver creatures you've seen before, with skin the color of old bone and eyes that glint like polished jet. It stands on a flat rock head, raised nostrils flared. The breeze tugs at its sides, ruffling the fine scales along its neck. And though the night seems calm, the lizard seems alert, as if listening for a sound no one else can hear. You stay still, breath shallow, watching this little sentinel. It doesn't move, doesn't dart or scurry like its smaller kin. It just stands there, tasting the night air, its body tense with some unseen knowledge. And you remember the stories, the legends whispered by those who walked these lands long before you. The tale of the storm-seer lizards, creatures so attuned to the desert's moods, they could smell a sandstorm before it formed, could sense its coming days in advance while the skies were still clear and the air still sweet. Historians still debate whether there is truth in that legend. Some point to the lizard's sensitivity to air pressure, their acute awareness of humidity, the way they seem to vanish before the winds rise. Others argue that it's coincidence that the legend grew from a few lucky or unlucky observations, repeated and polished by generations of storytellers. But standing here watching this lizard poised as if on the edge of revelation, you begin to understand why such stories endure. The breeze grows stronger, cooler now, carrying with it the faint dry tang of distant dust. The lizard tilts its head slightly, eyes narrowing, nostrils twitching. And for a moment the desert feels smaller, more intimate, as if you, the lizard, and the land itself share a secret. The stars above seem to press closer, as if waiting to see what happens next. Odd fact break. Desert lizards like this one have been known to find water by following the faintest scent trails left by plants' underground roots. Imagine that, navigating by smell through sand and stone, tracking moisture where none seems to exist. It's the kind of quiet genius the desert demands. The wind shifts again, more insistent this time. The lizard lowers its body, pressing close to the rock as if anchoring itself. Its eyes stay on the horizon, unblinking. You follow its gaze, but the night offers no hint of what it senses, just dunes, shadows, and stars. And yet you can't shake the feeling that something is coming. That the lizard's stillness is a kind of warning. A sign written not in words, but in instinct, honed over millennia. You step back, giving the lizard its space, feeling the weight of the night settle around you. The breeze hums in your ears, and somewhere in that sound you think you hear the first whisper of a storm's breath. Or maybe it's just your imagination sparked by legends and starlight. Either way, you find yourself moving on, leaving the lizard to its vigil. The desert will reveal its secrets soon enough. The desert at last seems to exhale. The fierce heat of the day is gone, and in its place comes a coolness so pure it feels like a blessing. The sand which burned your boots just hours ago now radiates that stored heat upward in gentle waves, soft and fading with each passing moment. You walk slowly, savoring this rare comfort, the breeze at your back, the stars thick above. And then down by the river's edge once more you see them, the crocodiles, their long vigil nearing its end. They lie as they have for hours, still and patient, but now their mouths begin to close. One by one, those gaping jaws ease shut, as if the night itself has given permission to rest fully at last. The cool air has done its work. No need for the open-mouth vents now. The crocodile's breath comes slower, deeper, their bodies settling into the mud, into the water, into the quiet embrace of darkness. You watch as one massive croc shifts slightly, the soft splash of its movement loud in the hush of the night. Its mouth closes fully, its eyes flicker open and shut, and then it goes still again, blending with the riverbank, just another shape in the shadows. There's something strangely peaceful about it, almost tender, as if even this fearsome creature knows how to appreciate the cool relief after a day's furnace. Historians still debate whether this nightly closing of jaws signals more than just comfort. Did ancient crocodiles use this time to shift into a different mode of vigilance, listening more with their ears, watching more with their eyes, relying less on that toothy deterrent? Some suggest the closing of the mouth marked a change in strategy from thermal defense to ambush readiness. The hunter waiting for prey drawn to the water by thirst. No one knows for certain. The desert keeps many of its truths buried beneath sand and time. The river sighs softly, its surface silvered by starlight. The reeds sway gently, whispering secrets to the wind. And there along the bank, the crocodiles sleep on their bodies glinting, where the moonlight touches their wet scales. You find yourself stepping lightly, unwilling to disturb this quiet communion of ancient beasts and the cooling night. And while we're here, let me share an odd little fact. Crocodiles have the most sophisticated heart of any reptile. Unlike their scaly cousins, they can shunt blood in clever ways, helping them stay submerged longer or manage oxygen during stressful moments. A heart built for endurance, for patience, for survival in a world that doesn't forgive mistakes. You settle down on a patch of sand, watching the stars, listening to the night. The crocodiles, the river. The heat is gone. The cool night is here. And the world, for a little while, feels balanced. You feel balanced. And as the crocodiles finally shut their mouths as the last of the day's heat slips away, you understand sometimes survival is about knowing when to let go, when to rest, when to trust the night to carry you safely into the dawn. The hush of night is deep now, the stars thick above their cold fire, casting the dunes in pale silver. But the peace is brittle, fragile, as a sand grain balanced on the wind's edge. You feel it first in the air, that shift, that subtle tension, as if the desert itself draws in a breath. The breeze that's been your companion softens, then steadies, and then grows stronger, sharper, carrying with it that dry electric tang that speaks of storms, of change, of chaos, waiting just beyond the horizon. And then you see it. A smudge on the edge of the sight, low, dark, rising where the dunes meet the sky. It builds slowly at first, a stain on the stars, a shadow where no shadow should be. But it grows, higher, broader, a wall of sand, of grit, of fury born from the desert's endless hunger. You brace yourself as the first gusts reach you, fierce and biting, filled with stinging grains that find every gap in your clothes, every crease in your skin. The world darkens, the stars, swallowed one by the storm's advancing edge. And in that rising chaos, you catch a flicker of movement. A desert lizard, the same kind you watched before, dashing low across the sand legs, a blur body flat against the earth's trembling skin. It vanishes into a burrow, a slit of darkness at the dune's base, as if it knew all along that this was coming. The wind roars now, a living thing, a beast made of dust and fury. The dunes shift their shapes, blurred their edges, lost to the storm's hungry breath. You crouch low, turning your back to the gale, pulling your scarf tight across your mouth. The air is filled with grit, with the sharp, choking taste of the storm. You blink against the sting, the world reduced to sand and sound. Historians still debate whether early desert dwellers truly learned to read the lizard's warnings, or whether that's a story we tell ourselves to feel connected to the wild. But watching that little creature vanish ahead of the storm's teeth, you can see why people might believe it. The lizard didn't wait, didn't hesitate. It knew. The crocodiles back at the river are hidden now, tucked beneath the water, beneath the mud, beneath the reeds. Their mouths closed, their bodies still, their strength turned inward against the storm's rage. The desert lizard burrowed deep, the crocodiles submerged, And you're here caught between them, feeling the raw power of a land that takes no prisoners, that offers no mercy, that tests every living thing with its storms. And here's an odd fact to tuck away for quieter nights. Some desert sandstorms are so fierce they can shift entire dune fields overnight, erasing landmarks, swallowing trails, rewriting the map of the land in a single breath. You can't help but wonder what this one will leave behind when it's done. The storm howls, the sand flies, and the night is swallowed in grit. You close your eyes, hunker down, and trust like the lizard, like the crocodile, that stillness, patience, and instinct will see you through to the other side. At last, the storm begins to ease. The roar fades to a hush. The sand's bite softens and the night exhales again. You lift your head slowly, cautiously. The stars reappear pale and shaken as if they too weathered the storm's fury. The dunes are changed, new shapes, new lines, as if the desert has redrawn itself while you crouched beneath its breath. The air is clearer now, the grit settling the world, returning to its ancient quiet rhythm. You rise, brushing sand from your clothes, feeling the weight of it in your hair against your skin. And as you take your first careful steps, you see the signs of survival all around. Near a dune's base, the faintest trail leads to a hidden burrow, the lizard's sanctuary. At the river's edge, the water is stirred and dark, but there's a ripple, a glint of scales beneath the surface, the crocodile's refuge. Both creatures so different yet bound by the same unspoken law. Know the land, trust the land, survive the land. The desert smells fresh now, oddly clean, as if the storm has scoured it of memory. You pause, listening to the breeze, feeling the coolness that follows the storm's heat. And in that quiet, you understand something simple and profound. Survival here is a dance, a balance of heat and instinct, of patience and timing. The lizard reads the wind, the sand, the subtle shifts that warn of danger. The crocodile masters the water, the mud, the stillness that shields it from harm. Each has its strategy honed over countless generations, passed down in the very shape of their bones. Historians still debate whether ancient peoples truly studied these creatures, whether they learned from their wisdom or simply admired it from afar. But watching the desert now reborn in the storm's wake, you see how the legends grew. A land like this doesn't give up its secrets easily. But if you watch closely, if you listen, you can learn. The desert speaks through its oldest children. The lizard's darting steps, the crocodile's silent jaws. Masters of a brutal land, living shadows of the ages. And one last odd fact to carry with you there are crocodile fossils that show healed wounds from battles with ancient predators, proof that even these masters of survival faced dangers and endured. The storm has passed, but the lessons remain: know when to run, when to hide, when to wait. And above all, trust in the strategies that have stood the test of time. You walk on the storm behind you, the night cool and clean, the stars bright once more. The desert quiet again watches over all who endure within it. The desert lies quiet now. The storm's fury spent the sands reshaped under a silvered sky. You walk slowly, savoring the hush that follows such chaos, feeling the weight of the night soften with each step. The stars, scattered and sharp, seem to lean in close, as if curious about your journey. The crocodiles sleep once more along the river's edge, mouths shut, bodies still. Their ancient strategies tested and proven again. The desert lizard lies hidden in its burrow, safe beneath the dunes, its delicate trail already lost to the shifting sands. And you are part of this story now, a witness to the timeless dance of survival, of balance, of instinct, honed across the ages. You think of the crocodiles, their silent patience, their mastery of stillness. You think of the lizards, swift and small, reading the air and the sand with a wisdom deeper than words. And you understand in the soft hush of the cooling night that these creatures are not relics of a forgotten world. They are the teachers, the keepers of the desert's secrets, the proof that survival comes not from strength alone, but from knowing when to move, when to hide, when to trust the land's quiet warnings. The storm is gone, but its lessons linger written in the dunes, in the river's song, in the night's gentle breath. Now let the stars keep their watch, let the desert rest, and let yourself drift safe in the knowledge that even here in the harshest places, life finds a way. The shadow of the ages endures, and you are part of its story now. Sleep well, wanderer.